Hello everyone, Wolf and Wolfclaw here. I'm going to be putting a video on screen. I'm going to need you to watch it real quick and then wait till the end for me to respond. Now, I will link the original video in the description with everything else. But please make sure to subscribe to me and that news source. With that said, let's start.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk.
Disney suspended Jimmy Kimmel after his Charlie Kirk monologue, but the decision blew up fast. The Avengers cast sided with Kimmel, refusing to stand with Disney.
If you are subscribed to Disney+, my hope is that you unsubscribe.
Now, fans worldwide have joined in, canceling subscriptions and walking away from the brand. How did it get this bad? Let's find out. Disney silences Jimmy Kimmel and sparks a Hollywood uprising. The crisis began when Jimmy Kimmel, a longtime late-night host under Disney-owned ABC, delivered a monologue that sparked controversy nationwide. The fallout escalated rapidly, pulling in federal regulators, the White House, and eventually Disney itself. ABC's parent company Disney was forced into the center of a political and cultural firestorm, one that would provoke unprecedented backlash not just from the public, but also from the actors most closely tied to Disney's most valuable property, the Marvel Avengers franchise. The trigger point came after the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Media speculation surrounding the alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, created a narrative war. Some claimed Robinson was aligned with the ultra-right wing. Others suggested a leftist motivation. Kimmel, during a live taping, referenced the situation in a way that critics accused of spreading disinformation. The backlash was swift. Within hours, networks, politicians, and regulators were reacting publicly.
The future of the late-night show Jimmy Kimmel Live is in jeopardy. Good evening once again, everyone. I'm Colleen Williams.
And I'm Michael Brownlee. ABC is preempting the show indefinitely because of comments he made following, the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
The immediate suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live was framed as an indefinite preemption, with ABC citing concerns over the impact of his monologue. Nexstar Media Corporation publicly distanced itself, emphasizing its pursuit of an FCC-approved merger and announcing it would no longer carry Kimmel in affiliated markets. This effectively reduced the program's national footprint to near zero overnight. The FCC then weighed in directly. Chairman Brendan Carr appeared on commentator Benny Johnson's podcast, calling Kimmel's comments really, really sick and hinting at regulatory punishment if Disney failed to act decisively. That threat added a government-backed edge to the pressure campaign. Disney, already navigating fragile relationships with regulators due to its broadcasting licenses and theme park concessions, folded under the weight. At the same time, President Donald Trump inserted himself into the story. From the United Kingdom, Trump praised ABC's decision and openly declared Kimmel's removal overdue.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago.
This convergence of political power and corporate compliance lit a fuse across Hollywood. What was initially a late-night programming controversy became symbolic of a broader struggle, the limits of free speech in the entertainment industry when corporate stakeholders fear political retaliation. The boycott movement began immediately. Conservative commentators mobilized audiences to cancel subscriptions to Disney-owned platforms.
Okay, you might have heard by now that Jimmy Kimmel was canceled by ABC indefinitely because of pressure. Let's just put a really sharp point on this. Pressure by the United States government. If you are subscribed to Disney+, my hope is that you unsubscribe. You stop paying. Now, if you are paying for Hulu, unsubscribe. Stop paying. Cancel your Hulu and Disney Plus accounts. Stop going to Marvel movies. Stop seeing Disney films.
The framing of Disney as complicit in silencing dissent turned the company into a lightning rod. Audiences on both sides of the political spectrum debated whether Disney was caving to authoritarian demands or simply managing a liability. Meanwhile, Kimmel himself remained mostly silent, while peers like Jimmy Fallon offered sympathetic commentary. Fallon noted during his Tonight Show monologue that no one in the industry truly understood what was happening, but he described Kimmel as a decent, funny, and loving guy.
Well, guys, the big story is that Jimmy Kimmel was suspended by ABC after pressure from the FCC, leaving everyone thinking WTF. But to be honest with you all, I don't know what's going on. And no one does, but I do know Jimmy Kimmel, and he's a decent, funny, and loving guy, and I hope he comes back.
Within days, the narrative escalated again when actors directly tied to Disney's crown jewel, Marvel's Avengers, began weighing in. These actors, many of whom have multi-million-dollar contracts and enduring global fan bases, recognized that their own creative freedom was at risk if political forces could dictate corporate censorship. Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, and others signaled support for Kimmel, framing the suspension as a dangerous precedent. Their statements were widely circulated on social media and picked up by entertainment press, adding credibility to the idea that Disney had alienated its most bankable stars. For Disney executives, the risk calculation shifted dramatically. The Avengers franchise generates billions globally, and alienating the ensemble threatened both short-term profits and long-term brand stability. The Avengers cast turns on Disney in a stunning rebellion. The decision by Disney to suspend Jimmy Kimmel without a clear path to reinstatement created a chain reaction within Hollywood that the company did not anticipate. Initially framed as corporate damage control to protect ABC's broadcast licenses and appease regulators, the move quickly became interpreted by insiders as capitulation to political interference. That perception provoked public statements from some of Disney's most valuable creative partners, the actors of Marvel's Avengers franchise. Their collective voice transformed the controversy from a late-night television issue into an existential clash between talent and corporate power. Robert Downey Jr., long considered the face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe due to his decade-long portrayal of Tony Stark, was among the first to make a statement. Known for carefully curated public comments, Downey's decision to openly criticize Disney's handling of the situation stunned industry analysts. He emphasized that corporate partners cannot selectively apply principles of free expression depending on political convenience. His words reverberated because Downey remains an enduring symbol of Disney's multi-billion-dollar success with the Avengers films. Chris Evans, who played Captain America, followed with sharper criticism. Having previously taken visible stances on social and political issues, Evans directly linked Disney's suspension of Kimmel to what he described as the suppression of dissenting voices under government pressure. By invoking constitutional language and aligning Kimmel's suspension with broader attacks on civil liberties, Evans framed the issue in moral rather than contractual terms. That rhetorical shift made it more difficult for Disney to present the controversy as a simple matter of brand management. Scarlett Johansson, one of the most prominent women in the Marvel ensemble, reinforced this perspective. Johansson's past legal battles with Disney over contractual disputes regarding the release of Black Widow added weight to her remarks. She emphasized that Kimmel's punishment demonstrated once again Disney's willingness to prioritize immediate business interests over the protection of artistic partners. Her remarks reminded observers that talent distrust toward Disney had not disappeared after her settlement. Instead, the Kimmel incident rekindled unresolved tensions. Mark Ruffalo, known for his outspoken progressive views, described the suspension as evidence of authoritarian encroachment in the entertainment industry. His framing added urgency to the dispute, portraying it not as a Hollywood squabble, but as a national issue concerning artistic freedom in the face of political coercion. Ruffalo's statement was widely circulated across activist networks and amplified beyond traditional entertainment media. Collectively, these Avengers stars represented billions in global box office revenue and millions of devoted fans. Their unified criticism created immediate reputational damage for Disney. For the first time in years, the studio appeared to have alienated both political conservatives calling for boycotts and the actors whose likenesses and performances drove its most profitable franchises. Disney's management team suddenly faced the nightmare scenario of simultaneous attacks from its customers, its regulators, and its own employees. The internal response at Disney was characterized by panic. Executives convened emergency strategy meetings to evaluate the potential fallout. Financial models suggested that if the Avengers cast collectively refused to participate in future projects, projected revenues from upcoming Marvel phases would collapse. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, once considered a nearly indestructible brand, was revealed to be dependent on fragile relationships with talent, who now viewed the company as disloyal. Compounding the crisis, grassroots campaigns escalated. Conservative voices urged viewers to unsubscribe from Disney Plus and Hulu.
Stop going to Marvel movies. Stop seeing Disney films. Stop going to Disney World. Because the only way this stuff stops is if we show them there is an equal but opposite reaction to not standing up to this authoritarian government.
This call to boycott merged unexpectedly with progressive critiques from Hollywood, producing a rare moment of bipartisan condemnation against Disney. The entertainment press seized on the spectacle. Headlines described Disney as caught in a crossfire, unable to appease either side. Industry publications noted that few corporations in modern history had managed to alienate political conservatives, Hollywood progressives, and global talent simultaneously. The optics of the Avengers cast publicly siding with Kimmel, while Disney maintained silence, reinforced the perception of cowardice at the executive level. Meanwhile, late-night competitors commented cautiously. Jimmy Fallon, as noted earlier, expressed support for Kimmel personally, but avoided direct criticism of Disney. Other hosts debated whether to acknowledge the controversy at all, aware that their own networks might also fold under political pressure. Nevertheless, the silence from many industry voices contrasted sharply with the outpouring from the Avengers ensemble, further underscoring the unusual gravity of their intervention. The corporate panic at Disney deepened when international markets began reacting. In Europe, where attitudes toward free expression differ from U.S. partisan dynamics, Disney faced sharp criticism in editorial pages for appearing to bow to government influence. In Asia, entertainment outlets highlighted the hypocrisy of a company that marketed itself globally as a promoter of creative freedom, yet silenced one of its own marquee talents under political duress. Shareholder anxiety followed. Analysts questioned whether Disney's brand equity could survive simultaneous boycotts from consumers and resistance from talent. The Avengers cast statements were interpreted as signals that future participation in Marvel projects might be contingent on Disney demonstrating loyalty to artistic freedom. Investors recognized the catastrophic implications if core actors withdrew or publicly refused to renew contracts. Behind closed doors, Disney reportedly explored damage control strategies. One option considered was quietly reinstating Kimmel after a brief suspension, framing it as a resolution reached through dialogue rather than capitulation. Another strategy involved negotiating with Avengers actors directly, offering contractual assurances that their creative freedom would not be compromised by future political disputes. Both approaches underscored Disney's desperation to contain a situation spiraling out of control. The tipping point came when fan campaigns began trending globally. Hashtags supporting Kimmel and criticizing Disney surged across platforms. Memes framed the Avengers cast as standing against corporate authoritarianism, further entrenching Disney's image as an enemy of its own stars. At theme parks, anecdotal reports circulated of visitors expressing disdain toward Disney leadership, while continuing to celebrate Marvel characters, highlighting the distinction fans made between the actors they loved and the executives they distrusted. For Disney, the realization was unavoidable. It had managed to turn its most profitable property into a rallying point against itself. The Avengers cast had effectively positioned themselves as defenders of free expression, while Disney appeared as the corporate enforcer of government will. That alignment carried devastating implications for the company's long-term credibility, with both audiences and creative talent. By the close of the second week, Disney executives confronted the reality that no amount of public relations spin could undo the perception damage. Each new Avengers star joining the chorus amplified the company's vulnerability. Instead of controlling the narrative, Disney had lost it entirely. The fallout from the Avengers rebellion was not confined to red carpet statements or cryptic tweets. It exploded into a multi-front campaign that left Disney reeling. Each cast member brought a unique weight to the fight, and together they formed an unprecedented united front that threatened to shatter the Marvel empire from the inside. Robert Downey Jr., ever the careful operator, chose his words with precision but carried the greatest symbolic force. He reminded audiences that without the actors who built the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there would be no billion-dollar box office records for Disney to hide behind. Industry analysts noted that Downey's remarks were particularly devastating because of his legendary status. He wasn't just any Marvel actor. He was the one whose performance in Iron Man launched the entire franchise in 2008. Downey's voice represented the origin story of Marvel itself, and his decision to side with Kimmel underscored how deeply Disney had fractured its own legacy. Chris Evans amplified the firestorm by explicitly linking the controversy to the broader fight for free speech. Evans had long been outspoken about political issues, but in this moment, his intervention carried heightened urgency. Fans associated him with Captain America, a character symbolizing resistance against authoritarianism. Seeing Evans call out Disney's willingness to bow to political pressure blurred the line between fiction and reality. Audiences weren't just reading Evans' words, they were interpreting them through the lens of Captain America himself. Disney executives recognized the danger immediately. The face of American patriotism on screen was painting them as collaborators in censorship. Scarlett Johansson's intervention added another explosive dimension. Unlike Evans or Downey, Johansson had already clashed publicly with Disney in 2021 over her Black Widow contract. She accused the company of violating agreements when it released the film simultaneously on Disney Plus and in theaters, a move that undercut her earnings. That dispute ended in a settlement, but insiders confirmed it left scars. When Johansson now joined the fight for Kimmel, it wasn't merely solidarity, it was vengeance. She positioned Disney as a repeat offender, a company with a pattern of betraying its talent for short-term gain. By invoking her history, she gave the rebellion a deeper narrative. Kimmel's suspension wasn't an isolated mistake. It was part of Disney's systemic disregard for artists. Mark Ruffalo leaned further into the political dimension. Known for his activism, Ruffalo declared that silencing comedians under government pressure set a precedent that endangered all creative industries. He framed it as a warning. If Disney caved today, tomorrow it could be another studio, another actor, another musician. His language was designed to rally not just Avengers fans, but anyone who valued artistic independence. His words found traction with activist groups, amplifying Disney's humiliation beyond the entertainment world into the broader sphere of political debate. Even actors who were not traditionally outspoken began weighing in. Jeremy Renner, who plays Hawkeye, signaled quiet support through social media posts that fans interpreted as solidarity with his castmates. Paul Rudd, usually apolitical in public, reportedly voiced concerns privately to Disney about the direction of the company's decision-making. The symbolism was critical. If even the most apolitical members of the Avengers ensemble felt compelled to act, it underscored how toxic Disney's actions had become. The collective rebellion destabilized upcoming projects. Marvel had carefully built its next phases of films and shows around both legacy characters and new introductions, but insiders revealed that Disney began postponing key announcements, wary that any mention of future Avengers appearances would provoke awkward questions about whether those actors were still on board. For a company that had turned Comic-Con appearances and cast reveals into global media events, this silence was deafening. Financial analysts began quantifying the risk. Projections suggested that if even 2 or 3 major Avengers actors refused to renew contracts, the box office revenue of future films could decline by billions. Merchandising tied to specific characters would also collapse, as fans refused to support a company accused of betraying its stars. Investors who once viewed Marvel as a guaranteed cash machine now questioned whether Disney's executives had destroyed the trust that underpinned its profitability. The Avengers rebellion also reshaped fan culture. Online, hashtags like #StandWithKimmel and #Avengers5Disney dominated trending lists. Fans created artwork depicting the Marvel heroes confronting the Disney castle, a symbol of rebellion against corporate overlords. TikTok edits framed Downey, Evans, and Johansson as real-life Avengers, standing up to a villain far more menacing than Thanos, Disney itself. These cultural expressions gave the rebellion staying power, embedding it into digital spaces where younger demographics consume their news and entertainment. Internationally, the rebellion sparked different reactions depending on cultural context. In Europe, newspapers praised the Avengers for resisting what they framed as corporate authoritarianism. In South America, where Disney relies on Marvel films for a significant portion of its market, opinion leaders highlighted the hypocrisy of a company marketing itself as progressive while silencing dissent at home. In Asia, coverage was more muted, but analysts noted that Disney's reputation as a global cultural leader was visibly tarnished. The rebellion also forced competitors to position themselves. Warner Brothers, long trailing Disney in the superhero race, quietly hinted that it would never silence its stars in the same way. Netflix, perpetually hungry for marquee talent, reportedly reached out to agents representing the Avengers cast, gauging their willingness to collaborate on independent projects should relationships with Disney collapse entirely. For the first time in over a decade, Disney's dominance over the superhero genre looked vulnerable. Inside Disney, panic turned into paralysis. Executives debated whether to confront the Avengers directly or attempt appeasement. Some argued that calling the actors bluff might prove they were unwilling to abandon billion-dollar paydays. Others warned that alienating them further could ignite an irreversible walkout. The indecision dragged on on, fueling headlines about Disney's incompetence. The rebellion also influenced Kimmel himself. Though largely silent in public, reports indicated he was deeply moved by the Avengers' support. Sources suggested Kimmel saw the solidarity as proof that he was not fighting alone, and that Disney's punishment had unintentionally transformed him from a late-night host into a symbol of resistance. This perception made it even harder for Disney to walk back its suspension, since reinstating Kimmel would now appear as surrender to the Avengers' demands. By this stage, Disney's worst-case scenario was clear. It had managed to turn its most valuable creative partners into its most dangerous adversaries. The Avengers' rebellion was no longer a flare-up. It was an organized front, with every major actor standing in opposition to the company. For Disney, whose Marvel brand had once symbolized invincibility, the image of its heroes leading a rebellion against it was nothing short of catastrophic. Disney faces total meltdown as fans and stars unite against them. The longer Disney failed to resolve the Kimmel crisis, the more entrenched opposition became. By the third week, boycotts had begun to affect measurable business metrics. Streaming analytics indicated a noticeable dip in Disney Plus subscriptions, with #cancel Disney Plus trending repeatedly on Twitter and TikTok. The company attempted to downplay the figures, but analysts confirmed a decline in engagement across Disney platforms, coinciding directly with the boycott campaigns. Merchandising revenues also reflected the backlash. Independent reports suggested Marvel product sales slowed in key demographics, particularly among younger audiences who were most active on social media. The symbolism of the Avengers cast siding against Disney carried weight with these consumers, who increasingly viewed purchases of Marvel merchandise as political choices. Retail partners quietly communicated concerns about declining demand, adding financial urgency to the crisis. Disney responded with internal communications, urging employees not to comment publicly on the Kimmel controversy. Leaked memos revealed that management feared further inflaming the issue. Yet the very act of silencing staff reinforced the perception of corporate authoritarianism. Employees expressed frustration privately, noting the contradiction between Disney's public branding as a champion of imagination and its internal enforcement of silence. Meanwhile, late-night peers continued weighing in. Fallon's initial sympathy had been joined by cautious comments from other hosts acknowledging the chilling effect of Disney's decision. This sentiment resonated across creative industries, where fears of political interference suddenly felt more tangible. Writers, comedians, and actors all recognized that if Disney's executives could be compelled to remove Kimmel, no talent was safe from similar treatment. The Avengers cast continued to escalate their stance. Publicists confirmed that several had privately informed Disney of their unwillingness to commit to new projects until the issue was resolved. Studios preparing upcoming Marvel phases quietly stalled negotiations, unwilling to finalize contracts amid uncertainty. Insiders reported that one Avengers actor even threatened to walk away entirely if Disney did not reinstate Kimmel. This brinkmanship forced Disney's leadership into crisis management mode. CEO Bob Iger and top executives reportedly considered direct outreach to Kimmel, but the late-night host remained reluctant to publicly negotiate. His silence added weight to the perception that he had been unfairly targeted and was awaiting Disney to take responsibility. In the entertainment press, narratives hardened. Articles framed the Avengers cast as standing for principle while Disney floundered. Editorials argued that the company's attempt to appease regulators had instead endangered its long-term creative pipeline. Trade publications warned that Hollywood talent might increasingly view Disney as an unreliable partner, willing to sacrifice loyalty at the first sign of political pressure. In the entertainment press, narratives hardened. Articles framed the Avengers cast as standing for principle while Disney floundered. Editorials argued that the company's attempt to appease regulators had instead endangered its long-term creative pipeline. Trade publications warned that Hollywood talent might increasingly view Disney as an unreliable partner, willing to sacrifice loyalty at the first sign of political pressure. The crisis also affected Disney's stock performance. Streaming growth had already slowed, with Disney Plus facing intense competition from Netflix, Amazon, and emerging platforms. Hulu, once a strong complement, had become a financial drain due to licensing costs and weaker brand identity. Analysts described the dual cancellations as a body blow that undermined Disney's long-term strategy of building a subscription-driven empire. Wall Street reacted swiftly. Disney's stock dropped sharply in the days following the Kimmel suspension, with billions in market capitalization erased. Investment banks downgraded their ratings, citing not just the immediate subscriber losses, but the long-term reputational risk of being perceived as politically compromised. Media analysts compared the situation to earlier crises, when companies found themselves caught between partisan firestorms, but noted that this episode was uniquely damaging. Both conservatives and liberals were punishing Disney simultaneously. The political dimension compounded the crisis. While Trump's allies framed the suspension as a victory over Hollywood elites, critics across the political spectrum warned of government overreach. The notion that the FCC chairman could openly threaten a broadcaster's license over a late-night monologue raised alarm bells among legal scholars. They argued that it crossed into unconstitutional territory, violating the First Amendment by using regulatory powers to silence dissent. By the end of the month, Disney attempted limited damage control. Executives floated trial balloons in the press, suggesting that Kimmel might return after a suspension period, framing it as an opportunity for reflection rather than punishment. However, such narratives failed to satisfy either side. Supporters of Kimmel demanded immediate reinstatement, while critics insisted his removal remain permanent. Disney's attempt to split the difference only highlighted its weakness. Meanwhile, calls for structural reform at Disney intensified. Commentators suggested the company needed to insulate its creative decisions from political pressure, possibly through independent oversight mechanisms. Industry insiders speculated that if Disney did not enact such reforms, other studios might poach talent frustrated with its governance model. The Avengers cast maintained their united front. Fans interpreted their solidarity as proof that the Marvel ensemble transcended corporate ownership, belonging instead to the public imagination. Disney, by contrast, was depicted as an expendable steward that had betrayed its custodial role. In the end, the Kimmel crisis inflicted damage beyond immediate financial losses. It permanently altered perceptions of Disney's relationship with creative talent. For decades, Disney had cultivated a reputation as the ultimate home of imagination and freedom, but the Kimmel episode revealed a darker reality. When pressured, Disney prioritized political appeasement and corporate interests over artistic integrity. The Avengers cast siding with Kimmel ensured that this narrative would not be forgotten quickly. For fans worldwide, the headline became symbolic of a larger cultural struggle. Disney, the world's most powerful entertainment empire, had been publicly defied by the very heroes it had helped create. And in that defiance, the Avengers demonstrated that even corporate giants could be held accountable when they abandoned principle. The fallout for Disney continues to reverberate. Subscriptions may recover, merchandising may rebound, and contracts may eventually be renegotiated. But the memory of this moment remains indelible. The day when Disney panicked and its most valuable stars told the company, in no uncertain terms, that it could kiss their ass. Kimmel himself remained silent. Sources close to the show revealed that he had been preparing to tape his Wednesday night episode when he was informed that it was canceled indefinitely. Neither he nor his production team issued public statements, leaving speculation rampant. Would he fight for reinstatement, move his platform to a streaming service, or retreat from late night altogether? The vacuum of silence only fueled the public debate. Supporters demanded that he take a stand, while critics declared his career effectively finished. Conservative commentators framed his silence as evidence of defeat, while liberal commentators argued it was proof of how chilling the atmosphere had become under political pressure. Within Disney's corporate offices, emergency meetings were held to strategize. Executives considered distancing Disney from the ABC decision, but this risked alienating affiliates and regulatory bodies. Others floated the possibility of mounting a legal defense against FCC interference, though this carried significant political risks. Internal sources reported that morale inside Disney's entertainment divisions had plummeted, with employees describing the company as paralyzed by the scale of the backlash. What made the crisis so severe was the way it touched every arm of Disney's empire. Disney Plus faced mass cancellations. Hulu was bleeding subscribers. Marvel films became boycott targets. Even theme parks like Disneyland and Disney World were pulled into the controversy, with activists urging families to cancel vacations. The cascading effect demonstrated the fragility of a conglomerate that had expanded across so many consumer touchpoints. Once a strength, now a vulnerability. The free speech debate, meanwhile, continued to dominate headlines. Analysts warned that if ABC could sideline one of its most prominent hosts under government pressure, other networks could be next. The decision, they said, was not just about Jimmy Kimmel, but about the future of independent commentary in American broadcasting. One commentator summed it up bluntly: "Of all things to be offended by, I've heard a lot more offensive things said in the aftermath of this terrible event. They manufactured a reason to go after Jimmy Kimmel, and ABC folded."
All right. So now that we're down this rabbit hole, basically, I made my first official video going over the situation. Then I made a more detailed video, which was part 2. And obviously, this is part 3. Now, I covered many cases already, from the Roblox reenactment drama to the assassination in its direct form. Now we're going towards Disney. I can't believe I just said that, but yes, we are going after Disney. And Donald Trump, of course, he's part of this. To anyone who refuses to allow freedom of speech, go fuck yourself, obviously. You cannot take away human rights, or, if I get this right, the First Amendment, whatever that bullshit is. I don't know how this little documentary BS works, so bear with me here. Freedom of speech is okay, but there is limits to what you can say, apparently. Apparently, in the Hollywood world, you cannot say or speak your mind. You are not just forced to, but you are obligated to say things as programmed for you to do. But out in the real world, we got people telling it how it is, like people like me. Now, Disney, under a lot of pressure, is already crumbling like a shit show. Disney has literally shut down Jimmy Kimmel over some things that he may or may not have said about the Charlie Kirk incident. While, yes, freedom of speech is okay, it does not permit or give any permission for murder, death, and assassination. You are allowed to speak freely, but you're not allowed to harm people. Now, people obviously will silence, and that's just the thing. While, yes, freedom of speech does exist, there are people who will silence certain people, like critics or people we deem as wrong. For instance, my explanation, haters. If haters talk, I silence them. That's a good explanation. In this case, Disney did not like what Jimmy Kimmel said, so they said, we're cutting you out right there. This has been an outrage in the Hollywood life. Going from big directors of Hollywood to government officials, even the people, the literal actors like Tony Stark and all those guys from Avengers are all angry. And I can understand why they're angry, because freedom of speech is a right, a God-given First Amendment right, if I even say half of this shit right. And it's not okay to be shushing people unless they are literally spreading false rumors. If you are spreading false rumors, then that's not okay. There's a limit, okay? If you are literally spreading false rumors, it's not okay. At least tell the truth, alright? The way they're acting with the government itself is corrupt. You can see these videos on social media as of currently of literal fucking activists of our movement, LGBTQ, furry, going off on the government. And the government's over here shooting people like it's nothing. Fuck the government. How about these people y'all are fucking trying to steal our rights? Little by little, you strip our rights away. The USA says there's a American dream. Fuck the American dream. It doesn't exist. America says there's freedom of speech. Huh, where is that now? Now, may I ask? The Freedom Lands. What American land is that? My point is, this is why I hate government. Government spreads lies, spreads rumors, but then when we spread lies and rumors, there's a problem? No, I think not. What I see is a problematic situation. See, I realized humanity is so fucked, it's more deeper than the Mariana fucking Trench. And by that, like, with all this shit going on recently, I feel disgusted saying that I was born human. Because it's that fucking dumb. It's that disgusting, that crazy, that dumb. All over the place hell. Now, I'm sitting here trying to survive day by day. From losing my mind from how much dumbness you guys cause. Look at me, alright? I'm an 18-year-old with his mother, living in a rundown home, and barely anything to get by. We run off of literal fucking government money, sucking off the tit of the government's funding. Now, I mind you that. That's the crazy part. Alright, every time we need help, or we cry out for help when we're getting targeted by people, even like Alternative Escape, a person from a while back, we asked for help from police departments. Asked for help to the social media network operators and people who say will protect you. Nothing happened. The motherfucking idiots who run this country are fucking dumb. The people who think they know what they're saying don't. While, yes, I don't know what I'm saying either, it shows that I'm willing to admit that I can't fucking know everything. These haters, they be hating. Alright, these sketchy MFs be fucking making scams on the daily. And in between all this shit show, a 18-year-old, me, makes more sense than you? Drop a 100 in the comments if you agree this is out of hand and needs to be fixed. Peace.
Look at what they made. Is this what they call glory, mother, do? You still believe they're the hero of the...
Well, hello there, my friend.
And it's getting worse. People act like jerks, judging by personalized words. We've longed for peace, but...
Hello, you have reached the end. If you end up liking this, like, subscribe, and hit post notification. And if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Love you. All hope you enjoyed the spectacular wild ride.
Broken me from the start. I've been fighting this endless war, trying to find where I belong here. I stand. What breaks me down makes me a man. Break me down, not at all. I have nowhere left to fall. So do you still believe